And as we mentioned, this Imam rahimahullah ta'ala, he was praised and he was loved, and he was somebody of the Sunnah. And he authored this book that we are studying today, and that is the Sharh Sunnah, where, barakallahu feekum, the meaning of Sharh, the meaning of a Sharh, it means clarification of the Sunnah. Sharh Sunnah, it means clarifying the Sunnah. As we know, we have Sharh Kitab al-Tawheed and we have Sharh al-Arba'in an-Nawawiyya, that we know that's explaining the hadith or explaining the chapters in the book of Tawheed. But this is generally Sharh Sunnah, yani clarifying the affairs of the Sunnah, clarifying that which is pertaining to the Sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, specifically regarding al-aqaid and belief. This book is ascribed to him. It's authentically ascribed to Imam Al-Barbaharī rahimahullah ta'ala. But however, some people of desires, some people who have qillatul ilm and not have, that they don't have truth, and they're not truthful and they don't have knowledge, they claim that this is not ascribed to the Imam rahimahullah. And from those who conjured up this are from the Ash'ariyah, the Ash'aris, and those who no doubt opposed the aqeedah that is exemplified in this book, that is explained in this book, because it opposes them. And from the misconceptions that they bring, we're going to bring this misconception that they bring, and they bring a shubha that in one of the manuscripts, because the manuscript of Sharh Sunnah, there's only one manuscript that's been found. There's only one manuscript that has been found, and on that manuscript, it mentions on it, it says, Kitab Sharh Sunnah and Abi Abdullah Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Ghalib al-Bahili Ghulam Khalil. And that is that it says that the book of Sunnah, which is from Abi Abdullah Ahmad, so the individual called Ahmad ibn Ghalib, so we're going to call him Ahmad ibn Ghalib, and he was an individual who in the manuscript is written his name is written there. So that which is apparent, it seems as though that this book is from his book, that he authored it, that he authored this book. But we have many answers and clarifications regarding this affair. The first affair is that this individual, Ahmad ibn Ghalib, even though he was somebody who was generally religious, but he was an individual who was wadda'. He misplaced narrations and he ascribed narrations to other than its owner. So the ulama, they say that from this is possible that he ascribed this book to himself, and he is not trustworthy in that regard. That's number one. And number two, the narrator from him, which is written in the manuscript, is Ibn Kamil. Ibn Kamil. And Ibn Kamil, when he narrated this from Ahmad Ghalib, he said, Dafa'a ilayya Abu Abdullah. Yani he gave it to me. He gave it to me. So it's not actually stating that it's from him, but he gave it to him. So some of the ulama say that from that aspect also is proof that there was a mistake by some of the transcribers, those who transcribed this manuscript by adding his name and misrepresenting the actual authentic text and authentic ascription to Imam Al-Barbaharī rahimahullah ta'ala. So that is that first affair, is that he himself, the one who claims that is from him, is a liar. He's considered a liar. So it's not from him, and he's considered a liar. And from the examples of his lies is mentioned that قلت لغلام, and this is mentioned by Abu Abdullah An-Nahawandi, Abu Abdullah An-Nahawandi. He said, قلت, I said, لغلام Khalil, I said to Ghulam Khalil, هذه الأحاديث الرقائق, these heart softening hadith and narrations, التي تحدث بها, that you are narrating. قال وضعناها لنرقق بها قلوب العامة, we placed them there We place these narrations so to soften the hearts of the people. He thought he was doing good, but he misrepresented in these narrations of hadith regarding softening of the heart. So likewise, it is very, very possible that he himself, barakallahu fikum, misrepresented the ascription of this treaty and this Sharh Sunnah by ascribing it to himself when it narrated to him. So it's called sariqah. It's called theft in reality. The second barakallahu fikum answer, or third, that the ulama have mentioned in this regard is that it is highly unlikely that he actually met Imam Al-Barbaharī rahimahullah ta'ala, because the age difference and the age gap between them necessitates that Imam Al-Barbaharī was very young when this individual died, and this individual died in the year 275, and Imam Al-Barbaharī rahimahullah ta'ala, he died in the year 329. Now bear in mind that of these dates, he died in the year 275. This Ahmad ibn Ghalib, who ascribed these texts to himself, he died in that year 275, and Imam Al-Barbaharī rahimahullah ta'ala died in the year 329. Add to that, barakallahu fikum, add to that, in the book, in Sharh Sunnah, in number 103. So you go to the Sharh Sunnah, the point 103. He says, وَجَمِيعُ مَا وَصَفْتُ لَكَ فِي هَذَا الْكِتَابِ فَهُوَ عَنِ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى وعن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وعن أصحابه وعن التابعين والقرن الثالث إلى القرن الرابع. فهذه القرينة يا إخوان تدل دليلا قاطعا على صحة نسبة الكتاب للبربهاري. Remember that here this Ahmad ibn Ghalib, he died in the year 275, and Imam Al-Barbaharī died in the year 329. So Ahmad ibn Ghalib died in the 3rd generation, and Imam Al-Barbaharī died in the 4th generation. So the one who is claimed that this book is ascribed to died in the 3rd generation, and Imam Al-Barbaharī died in the 4th generation. In Sharh Sunnah itself, the point 103, Imam Al-Barbaharī, he said, all of that which I have explained to you in this book is based upon the Quran from Allah and based upon the Sunnah, yani from the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and from the Tabi'een, and from the companions radiyallahu anhum, the Sahaba, and from the Tabi'een, the 2nd generation, and from the 3rd generation, and from the 4th generation. So he included the 4th generation. And Ahmad ibn Ghalib only lived up to the 3rd generation. So this cannot be the case. But Imam Al-Barbaharī rahimahullah ta'ala, he lived up to the 4th generation. So he witnessed the aqidah of the people from the 3rd and the 4th generation, as mentioned here in point number 103. So this clearly shows that due to the age of these two individuals, Ahmad Ghalib and Imam Al-Barbaharī rahimahullah, that this book is indeed correctly, qat'an, without a doubt, dalilan qati'an, a clear proof here that it is ascribed to Imam Al-Barbaharī rahimahullah ta'ala. Also, barakallahu fikum, we have many other proofs. And from the most important, I believe, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, is that it's been attested by the ulama of the Sunnah that it is his book. It's been attested by the scholars of the Sunnah that this book is authentically ascribed to him. And from the first of those is Ibn Abi Ya'la rahimahullah ta'ala in his Tabaqat al-Hanabila, where he mentioned the majority of Sharh Sunnah in his book. and ascribed it to Imam Al-Barbaharī rahimahullah ta'ala. So much so that the muhaqqiqun, the people who have authenticated and checked the text of this, use the mentioning of Ibn Abi Ya'la of Sharh As-Sunnah in his Tabaqat al-Hanabila to compare it to the makhtutat, to compare it to the manuscript, the sole manuscript, in order to ascertain its authenticity in its wordings and its ashkal and so forth. So that's the first one that mentioned it. That's Ibn Abi Ya'la. And the second is Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah in Al-Muswadda. He mentions it, rahimahullah. Imam Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala. قال أبو محمد في شرح السنة, he said. قال أبو محمد في شرح السنة, clearly. And Abu Muhammad, he said in Sharh As-Sunnah. Imam Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala mentioned that there. And likewise, he mentioned it, rahimahullah ta'ala. Al-Dhahabi, Imam Al-Dhahabi mentioned it also, rahimahullah ta'ala, in his Kitab al-Ulu. In his Kitab al-Ulu, with proofs, which is a book compiled of evidences regarding the highness of Allah and Allah being above, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he quoted Imam Al-Barbaharī that this is from his, this is Sharh As-Sunnah is from him. How? He quoted Nassan, some of the statements of that is mentioned in Sharh As-Sunnah, and ascribed it to him. And likewise Ibn Muflih al-Maqdisi as well, in Adab al-Shar'iyyah, and also in Al-Furu', ascribed through the text clearly that it is indeed the work of Imam Al-Barbaharī rahimahullah ta'ala. As he mentioned, he says, وَقَالَ الْحَسَنِ ibn Ali Al-Barbaharī fi kitabihi Sharh As-Sunnah. He said that, and Abu Muhammad Al-Hasan ibn Ali Al-Barbaharī said in his Sharh As-Sunnah, وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَيْسَ فِي سُنَّةِ قِيَاسٍ. And know that in the Sunnah there is no analogy opposing the Sunnah. And this, barakallahu fikum, is mentioned in Sharh As-Sunnah. Nassan, wording, the exact wording. And also it's mentioned in, he mentions the point number 9 in Sharh As-Sunnah, and mentioned point number 10, and also mentions point number 144. All of these, barakallahu fikum, shows that the ulama, the scholars, have attested that Sharh As-Sunnah is indeed from the works of Imam Al-Barbaharī rahimahullah ta'ala. So in conclusion, we can say that the mentioning of Ahmad ibn Ghalib al-Bahili rahimahullah as the author is either he himself ascribed it to himself, and he is not a trustworthy narrator in that he places narrations in its wrong, misrepresents narrations for whatever reason he deems fit. He misrepresents narrations, and this could be from those, and more likely this is the reason, to be honest, that this book he ascribed it to himself. And secondly, barakallahu fikum, the person who narrated it from Ahmad ibn Ghalib al-Bahili, he himself didn't explicitly say that it's from Ahmad Ghalib, but rather he said he gave it to me. So it's kind of obscure. And thirdly, barakallahu fikum, Imam Al-Barbaharī rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentions that he's taken the aqeedah, and that which he's taken from this book is from the book of Allah, the Sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the way of the companions, the tabi'een, the third generation and the fourth generation. And Imam Al-Barbaharī lived to the fourth generation to show that this indeed, barakallahu fikum, from this that is his work. But as for Ahmad al-Bahili, he died in the third generation, so he did not meet the fourth generation. So that point here that's mentioned in Sharh As-Sunnah is a proof that this is from the works of Imam Al-Barbaharī rahimahullah. And finally, we mentioned statements of the scholars and the ulama, barakallahu fikum, in attesting this work being from Imam Al-Barbaharī rahimahullah ta'ala. From them, Dhahabi, and from them Ibn Abi Ya'la, Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, and likewise Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani rahimahullah, and other than them, barakallahu fikum. And the ulama after them, from the ulama up until this day, ascribe the book to Imam Al-Barbaharī. So do not pay attention to these YouTube clowns that claim without any type of study or any truth with no truthfulness, that this Sharh Sunnah is indeed not the work of Imam Al-Barbaharī. It's a lie, and no doubt this is not a shock, because indeed the people of Bid'ah, they would do anything to divert the people of the Sunnah from benefiting from this monumental work, Sharh Sunnah, and other than them, because indeed it's a refutation against them. From the foolishness that they mention is they say this book is supposed to be a book of Aqidah, but yet it mentions in it Masail Fiqhiyya. It mentions in it affairs of fiqh. We say yes, it mentions in it affairs of fiqh, and for the one who understands Sharh Sunnah Al-Barbaharī and understands the fiqh behind his points that he's mentioned, will understand why. And that is that he mentions Imam Al-Barbaharī rahimahullah ta'ala al-Mas'al al-Khaffayn. He mentions the affair of wiping over the socks or your shoes, and he mentions the affair of nikah al-mut'ah, temporary marriage, and that is a radd ala firq ad-dalla. And he mentions this in refutation against those who made or deemed mut'ah permissible from the Rawafid and the Shia. He's refuting them by mentioning this, because it's from their points and from their belief that mut'ah is permissible. It's from the characteristics that one can ascribe to the Shia, and he mentions it here because the firq ad-dala, like them, al-mukhalif fi hadhihi al-masail, al-mukhalifa fi hadhihi al-masail, and they oppose these affairs. So with this, barakallahu fikum, we conclude today's lesson, and bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, we will continue inshallah next week by starting the book, in essence, inshallah, Sharh Sunnah, and we will be using in explaining this book the Sharh Al-Barbaharī of Shaykh Rabi' Hafidhullah Ta'ala, and likewise the Sharh of Shaykh Salih Al-Fawzan Ittihaf Al-Qari, and likewise we'll be referring to Al-Ibanat Al-Kubra of Ibn Battah, and we'll also refer to the Masail of Imam Ahmed in the affairs of Aqidah, and likewise Usul I'tiqad Al-Lalaka'i. We try and get benefits from all of these books to understand and amalgamate the affairs pertaining to the specific points in Sharh Sunnah of Imam Al-Barbaharī. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us tawfiq fi dhalik, that He makes this be durus, lessons that will bring us closer to Him bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Ameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in, walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.